So as Ben said, this is the new book cover that's coming out for his book, The Family Law, and I'll be using that as kind of a bit of a touchstone and an example. So as Ben said, this is the new book cover that's coming out for his book, The Family Law. So as Ben said, this is the new book cover that's
my novel.
Yeah, edit your novel, do the cover for the novel, you find your publisher or help you publish it online or whatever it may be. We've got over 10 million users on the site, growing about 20,000 a day, and about 5.4 million projects have been posted. And really what it is we're a global marketplace for services. And if you think about how the internet has evolved over the last 20 years, so back about 1995, it went mainstream in the US, UK, Australia, Canada, and other Western economies. People went online, being very consumer-driven economies, they went online to buy things, and this led to the emergence of global marketplaces for products. First-hand products being Amazon, second-hand products being eBay, and then payment systems like PayPal. Fast forward 15, 20 years later, the internet hits Indonesia, hits India, hits Pakistan, Philippines, and so forth. People go online, they don't have any money to buy anything, so they can't buy something off eBay, they don't have any money, they don't have any possessions to potentially...
My novel.
Yeah, edit your novel, do the cover for the novel, you find your publisher.
My novel.
Yeah, edit your novel, do the cover for the novel, you find...
That create further distance for the koala to cover between food trees. This puts them on the ground for extended periods of time, where they battle cars and dogs. And those are battles the koala never wins. And did you know koalas cry? When they are distressed from injury, the loss of their home tree or mother or dog attack, as is the case for this koala who has just lost an ear to a dog. They sit in a tight ball on the ground and weep. Cut down its home tree and the koala will continue to return to the site, hoping the tree will reappear. But it never does. What Koala Tracker shows is that disease is not the biggest killer of koalas. That create further distance for the koala to cover between food trees. This puts them on the ground for extended periods of time. That create further distance for the koala to cover between food.
7 for women, 95 for men. In 40 years' time, who knows? The IGR projects that there could be 40 million Australians. In fact, by 2055, the number of people aged over 65 will more than double. There will be 7 million Australians over the age of 65. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I am older than a lettuce and younger than a mountain. Now, take a look at this graph for today. It shows that up there's a bit of a bulge in the population around the ages 25 to 29. But this graph for 2055 shows that the bulge has shifted sideways to the older years, to 30 to 39 years. And when you combine the two of them, you see this yellow area. That's a whole bunch of extra people in the 60 to 99 age group. Back in 1975, there were 7 for women, 95 for men. In 40 years' time, who knows? 7 for women, 95 for men.
Attractive things which cover everything from innovation and high-level education throughout a young person's life through to developing jobs in new industries and really leading the way in economic prosperity. So I think these things come from an incredible impatience and an incentive to do something, innovation, that attractive things which cover everything from innovation and high-level education throughout a young person's life through to developing jobs in new industries and really leading the way in economic. Attractive things which cover everything from innovation and high-level education throughout a young person's life through to developing jobs in new industries and really leading the way. Attractive things which cover everything from innovation and high-level education throughout attractive things which cover everything.
Shouldn't cover childcare. And so I think we really need to look at how do we support women who have children and who choose to have children, but how do we also support women who don't have children? and who don't enter the domestic situation, and how do they get social support systems that they're going to need. So that's my first issue. And I think the second issue is unfettered access to birth control. I think that we need to be able to have that.
Boy, see, that's just, truly, that's 30. I've been doing interviews on this for years and years. It's incredible to hear you cite those two things that go right back to the start. Now, Anita, you're in a very different situation, aren't you?
Well, I wanted to just say, so in the US, so I disagree with one of the things that you said earlier about
shouldn't cover childcare, and shouldn't cover childcare.
A chick book. I know there's a chick on the front cover, guys, but that's because I am a chick. Okay, so, but the fact is, and it's not a book about abuse, it's a book about our worth. And, 2 years ago, I went into 18 months ago, actually, some very intense therapy because I'd had still some broken areas in my life. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And God had a whole new season of influence and impact for our family. But who knows that if God's going to make you more impactful outwards, He's going to go inwards and downwards first. And there was new levels of stuff that I just had to deal with because we all carry stuff, whatever might happen. I don't know what your story is, but that feeling of unworthiness right from the Garden of Eden, the enemy came in to the woman and he said to her, "Did God really say?" And we have a world that is a chick book. I know there's a chick on the front cover, guys, but that's a chick book. I know there's a chick on the front cover, guys, but that's because
in Australia, a fingerprint option on the type cover. It's a separate pad on the in Australia, a fingerprint option on the type cover. It's a separate pad on the just below the keyboard where you can put your finger and use fingerprint recognition to get into the system. That's $50 extra. And hooray, you can now charge a smartphone using the USB port. So that's really good. And the charger has a USB port as well, which nobody seems to have mentioned. So I don't know if it's a specific Australian thing, I doubt it, but you've got an extra USB port, which if you're travelling is important. The dock, I think, is more useful as well. It's more flexible. So 3 + 1 = 4. Surface Pro 3, add another version, you get a 4, and for me it gets a tick. What didn't I like? Well, as you can guess, some things didn't change. It's still got the messy, ugly ports and cables. Still poor battery life, 9 hours claimed, but none of the reviewers that have looked at the device seem to have got more than 4 hours out of it, most about 3 hours and 15 minutes. So it hasn't got a great battery life. The odd 3:2 aspect ratio continues, and in Australia, a fingerprint option on the type cover. It's a separate pad on the in Australia, a fingerprint option on the type cover.
Stop. Cover the rest of the body in bronzing cream and wait till that soaks in, and wait. Put straightening gel in hair, section off and apply searing heat until styled into shape. Burn finger on tongs, ow. Almost do back in lifting up makeup kit. Stop. Cover the rest of the body in bronzing cream. Stop. Cover the rest of the body in bronzing cream.
Big enough bonds to cover the costs of rehabilitation, which we're not doing at the moment, then the rehabilitation of that mining land would also potentially be a great way to employ skilled miners and their equipment during the downturns between booms. Big enough bonds to cover the costs of rehabilitation, which we're not doing